Hi, I'm Jeremy Crosby.
And I'm Nick Boucher. We're your hosts for the program that's all about your city, Talking Fitchburg.
Every weekday, we pull together the news, events, and information you need to stay on top of what's happening in the city of Fitchburg.
Find Talking Fitchburg on cable TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and our live stream on the web. Plus, you can find all our headlines and stories on Facebook, YouTube, and our video on demand service. This is your city.
Keep up with Talking Fitchburg and the issues affecting you and your neighbors.
Want to know what's happening in your city? Get Notify Me messages from the City of Fitchburg. Visit fitchburgwi.gov on your computer or mobile device and select the big Notify Me button on the left. Enter your email and/or phone number, whichever is best for you to get notifications. Scroll down the list and select all the topics you're interested in to receive email or text messages about. You'll be notified every time one of your topics is updated. Sign up for Notify Me, one more way to keep up with your Fitchburg government.
We will call this meeting to order. It is 6 o'clock on August the 7th, this edition of Fitchburg Parks Commission. Item number 2 on the agenda, approval of minutes. We have a resident registered to speak in opposition to the minutes as written, Patrick Cheney. Let's go ahead.
Yeah, I'm opposed as written here. They could be better. I'm only commenting on 2 of the items that I spoke on. Anything else is up to the commission members, and I encourage the members to add more to these minutes for the record. Number 4A, this is the Kids Crossing approval, the resolution. I was present in the audience, and it was nearly impossible to tell what the vote was. I watched the video replay many times over and also very vague on who supported this. The 2 no's are noted very clearly. So I suggested if those supported it, want your vote to be recognized and put your name behind your vote, ask that be added onto the record. This is not a small project. This initiates a $1 million project, all on property tax. There is no park dedication money allowed for this, and this will be on borrowing, the worst way to buy anything, because the property taxes will pay for it, and the property taxes will also pay the interest on the borrowing. 5A, dogs in park. I looked it up. This was requested by Sarah in June, but for dogs on leashes, not in dog parks. Sarah was not available for the meeting, and nothing explained this in the packet or on an agenda line for this topic. So only a few words were actually read on the leash ordinances. All the rest of the 5-minute discussion was on people cleaning up after their dogs. So this is still not explained in these minutes either. There used to be an agenda comments that Scott created and was published in the packet, and that was very useful, very good background on the agenda items, and that's not being included. I am hoping that improvements like that are not lost to the future.
Patrick, no other comments on that item. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes with edits or as written, as anybody would like to make that motion?
I move to approve as written.
Second.
Right, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Unopposed, motion carries. Item number 3, public appearances for non-agenda items. We do not have any. Oh, yes, we do. Nope, that's an agenda item. I'm sorry. We don't have any for non-agenda items. On to item number 4, discussion and action items. 4A is resolution R13825, authorizing acceptance of the Chicory Meadows Park. And we do have a citizen registered to speak on this item. I'm sorry, I can't quite read your name. If you want to give
Huck Hausman.
come on up and let us know what you'd like to say. Register to speak in.
Sure. Trying to read this to get it, not relying on my brain to remember. I'm speaking in favor of what I understand the city's direction is on Chicory Meadow, and that's in terms of applying a few more funds and coming up with basketball court, dedicated tennis court, and 2 dedicated pickleball courts. So that's what my understanding is the direction that the city
There's
is.
a plan right behind you.
Yes, sir. Perfect. Okay, so my name's Huck Hausman. My wife and I have lived at 3123 Harlan Circle for the past 5 years. Before that, we lived in Verona for 30 years, raised a family, and amongst other things, I served under park commission, so I've kind of been in your seat before. I should also add that I'm not one of those crazy pickleball people, okay? Rather, I'm an experienced lover of all racket/paddle sports. You name it, if it has a racket or paddle, I've played it, a lot. So I love tennis, I love pickleball, I love it. So I'm not just, okay. So I'm here tonight, 2 things, to express my support for the direction Fitchburg is going with Chicory Meadow Park, in particular alternative 1, what we have up there, 2 dedicated pickleball courts, 1 dedicated tennis court, and then basketball. And then number 2, offer a couple suggestions the city could think about if push comes to shove and you need to save a few bucks on that project. And I kind of talked to Scott before and such, but anyways, so first, as far as applauding the city giving tennis and pickleball their own dedicated courts, why? Because in doing so, instead of a single tennis court where if doubles, you might have 8 people playing, 4 people at once. With this kind of thing, you can have 12 people, 12 residents using a facility. That's 3 times as many people as just a single tennis court. Pickleball and tennis are cousins, they're not twins, okay? So the respective courts, it's not like a checkers or a chessboard where they use the same thing. Analogy is soccer and football, okay? So in a pinch, you can play soccer on a football field, but that was tried, and over years, schools don't do that anymore. Same thing with softball and baseball. Rewind 20 years ago, 30 years ago, they used to put softball and baseball on the same field to say that you can do it, but that just doesn't work if you're playing either of the sport. So, and then also when you start, it was very popular to double up and line tennis courts with pickleball courts, and you get this kind of dizzying array of lines that make it confusing for either tennis player or pickleball player. And then finally, pickleball tennis nets are 2 inches higher than pickleball nets, and most places they're fixed. Doesn't sound like about a lot, but that's like 6%. And if you put in terms of other sports, ask a basketball player how they'd feel about a rim that's 10 feet 7 inches off the ground instead of 10. Ask a softball player if...
I just want to give you a heads up that we do ask folks to keep it to 3 minutes.
Okay. So anyways, there's just other analogies where, if football, if the field was 106 yards instead of 100, you get feedback. So anyways, I think you get where I'm going, applauding you on the dedicated courts. And then secondly, as to how the city could possibly save money, push comes to shove. 2 things. If I understand the bids correctly, it has screens in there, okay? That I mean, it's really nice. It's a want, but maybe not a need. Other communities like Verona, they put up the courts without them, and then they relied on the community clubs to afterwards come in. So screens are not inexpensive. The other thing is just in the area that I've highlighted with the yellow, that if I understand the proposal correctly, you've got around this entire area 8 to 10 foot chain link fence around here. For this area particularly, this area too, you don't really need 8 to 10 feet around a pickleball court. Anything above, pickleballs don't bounce, they don't go very far like tennis balls. Anything on this section over 5 feet is really kind of excessive and unneeded, and you could definitely save some bucks on not having 10-foot poles and whatnot. So I probably used up all my minutes. I appreciate the opportunity to share the information.
Thank you very much.
Now, I know we may ask questions. I appreciate your comments. Is there anything else you wanted to say?
No.
Okay.
No, that's pretty much
You know,
covers.
it's very thoughtful. Your information is very thoughtful, and if there was more, I'd like
Yeah,
to hear
yeah,
it.
no, I appreciate that. I know there's just a couple more examples, but I was just beating the horse on them, so yeah. You get my,
Okay.
But thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, well, for our discussion, I think we first need a motion for approval. Does anybody want to make that motion?
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
David, motion, Heidi seconds. All right, discussion. Dave. Dave, go ahead.
So when this came to public, when it came to us at Public Works, you know, we looked at it, and the initial proposal, you know, we're trying to be conscious of budget, and it only had the tennis court, dual tennis court, pickleball court, and basketball, and we felt as an alder, the 2 alders and the mayor, that we should give at least, you know, give the residents or the park back to similar to the way it was before. You know, we had basketball and 2 tennis courts, so it will cost more money for that. So we proposed a couple of options to save money. You know, I like the one with the fence. I'd like to implement that one also. They won't be able to put down, they'd have to put temporary striping down in the fall. They're gonna be too late to get good painting, so I said, forego the temporary striping. You know, we get it done, it'll be late October, November. We'll stripe it in the spring. And the second was, we took the landscaping out from the vendor, and I thought, well, the Public Works and neighbors, this is their park, you know, we'd ask them to pitch in to help us do the landscaping for it. You know, I'm looking for ways to cut costs. You know, Sue Easterday also suggested, you know, we don't need adjustable basketball rims, which I agree with. You know, just a standard post at, you know, standard basketball at 10 foot. So I'm in favor of, you know, all 3 of those components, but anything we can do to save money on it, you have my support. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Dave. Others? Sue?
Okay. I watched the Public Works meeting, and they really worked hard to come to a conclusion. And with input, one of the members lives in the neighborhood. And they were really advocating for the 2 tennis courts and then the pickleball striping on it. But at the same time, the resident who has come here tonight has given us good reasons. And that's option 1, what Public Works voted in favor of. The staff recommendation is option 2, right?
Staff's recommendation was strictly based on budget standpoint.
Right.
If we're gonna move forward with one, that was the least expensive.
That was least expensive. But it also happens to be the one where the pickleball is separate. And I didn't know that the ball in pickleball doesn't bounce. So the 2-inch difference in the height of the net is a factor. And one of the things I remember from the discussion of the first set of pickleball courts at McGaw Park was after they were built or approved to be built, then the pickleball club came in and told us all the stuff we should have done. And they weren't wrong. So while it may seem to those of us who are non-racket sports people that it makes sense to put 2 tennis courts and stripe it for pickleball, I'm also hearing that doesn't work too well. So I think I would still approve of the staff recommendation of option 2 for that reason, because it actually means that what you have installed works for the people, works best for the people who are going to use it. That's my
The
opinion.
way I understood option one was it's 1 tennis court and 2 pickleball courts. So wasn't that correct?
Dave, I can go through this real quick, Dave, if that helps. Maybe that we,
Please do it.
Yeah.
Please do.
Just real quick. So we bid, jeez, sorry. Okay, so this was the base bid. So if you end up looking at the bids, this is the base bid. So we looked at doing the full basketball court and then 2 full tennis courts with also pickleball striping on them. That was the base bid that was in here. We had option 1, I believe, in the bid documents, which was the full tennis court, the full basketball court, and then the 2 pickleball courts. This would actually shrink from the current size of it because the pickleball courts are not as wide, so it would shrink a little bit. So
And that's option 2.
well, it's confusing. I acknowledge that 100%. The base bid was the first one. If you're looking at the bid tabs, this would be alternative 1, and this was alternative number 2, and this is design option number 3. That's partially what makes this confusing is how Fred designed it versus how it was actually bid. This was option number 2. This was the least expensive one that, as we went forward, that was what was in the original resolution that went to Board of Public Works on Monday. And it has the full basketball court and 1 full tennis court that is also striped for pickleball. What Public Works, the Board of Public Works did was they recommended amending the resolution so it would be this one, which is alternative 1 on the screen. It says design option 2, and it is the basketball court, the separate tennis court, and then 2 pickleball courts. So that's what Board of Public Works recommended that we move forward with. Does that cover it, Dave?
Yeah.
That's correct. Thank you, Adam.
Okay, I was lost,
I
I admit it.
I'm fully in support of that option that Public Works put together. I think that makes the most sense. The reason why, I live there, so there's 700 households in that area. If you look at Seminole Hills and the other areas, there's 700 houses that are served by basically 2 tennis courts. So to me, it's kind of a no-brainer in terms of just, plus it was promised 2 years ago by the mayor to be put in. So if I get hit by my neighbors on any topic, and that is it. Everybody asks me about what's the status of that tennis court? What's the status of the pickleball courts? And I'm like, I have no idea, but I get hit with that more than anything else that I deal with. So I think Public Works, I did listen to it. I thought that was a pretty good, even though it was long, was a pretty good analysis of what I think is the right approach. And I think one of the authors said, hey, if you got people showing up to play tennis, there's only 1 tennis court. You got to go all the way back home or whatever. So it doesn't make sense to me when you've got 700 households that touch this park not to have option 1 that they've selected here.
So, but this is what we're all talking about right now, that Public Works approved.
So I think the motion you put in place is the original, unless correct me if I'm wrong, it's the original motion of, I think we want to make sure we're clear that you might want to clarify the motion of, I assumed it was the one that was actually kind of in the referral sheet in the pack. Obviously, Board of Public Works amended it. If you're leaning towards this alternative 1, also called design option 2, I would make sure you clarify that in the motion, that it's clear if that's the way the commission wants to go.
Okay. Dave, you being the one making the motion, would you like to clarify in any way?
What is shown on the screen is what Board of Public Works, amended resolution, what we were in favor of. I would like to add one thing. I think it's germane to the discussion. Adam, I think Adam astutely pointed out, he said, we only had 1 bidder. And next spring down in Swan Creek, we have to redo the tennis courts down there. And Adam suggested we delay it and bid everything together, maybe get a better bid. And I certainly appreciate that thought, and maybe we would have. Not sure, for something next year, whether the bid would be better, but as Sam pointed out, we promised this to the neighbors for a long time. I would rather get it built this year, even if we only get a month of play, in November, but we're ready to, hit the ground running in March. I'd rather move this ahead, even, you're always curious, 1 bid, could we have done better? Well, I think we have a design that will work for the neighbors will support, and I'd like to move it ahead.
Thank you. So Dave, to clarify, You made the original motion, is that correct, Dave?
Yeah.
So
Yes, I did.
and your motion is to approve the concept as approved by Public Works?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
just to make sure
I
that
believe
was
it's option one, alternative two. I think, Adam, is that correct?
On the page, it says design option 2.
Yeah, it's alternative one.
alternative one, but
Bid documents, but it's the option that has the full tennis court, the full basketball court, and 2 pickleball courts.
I think that's,
What you are
the
looking at is
one-hand
what
version
I
is the most accurate for
approve.
me.
Made the motion to approve.
wonderful, thank you. The only thing that I might suggest that we think about is the number listed as landscaping seems like a big number for what we think of as landscaping, but looking at the some of the design drawings, I think that a lot of what's in that number is actually repair grading, finish grading, topsoil, and then seeding and erosion mat over the top of that. So I think a small part of that number is actually the green stuff, the seeding and the erosion number. I think there's a likelihood the bulk of that is soil and repair grading. So I think that might be something beyond the capabilities of a volunteer team, possibly even staff. So I think it might be worth us trying to lump that back in there, and then the council can choose to take that out if they wish. But I think that it might be wise to try to get that back in there, because I think it's a little bit more labor intensive than what the title makes it seem like.
So we're still looking into that. That was a comment raised at Board of Public Works. So this was bid as one project, and we need to make sure that how we go back and take a look at that, if we go with this with previously, that we're following all the correct procedures and rules with that, because it was kind of bid as part of that, and typically you don't go back and start amending and changing things. So I know Tracy Foss is looking into that right now, and so am I. But I think right now from a staff standpoint, yes, we know that's a concern from Board of Public Works. We want to make sure we get the ceiling set at, this is kind of where it's the top dollar that's been allocated towards the project to keep it moving, but recognize that we're going to try to work on that, have some conversations with Parisi as it relates to the striping specifically, and even the restoration as well. Part of that is kind of to your point of staff capacity as well. We have to take a look at what type of capacity we have, but we're also looking even if we can even take those out, because this was fully bid out, publicly bid out, and to go in and start changing styles and things like that, typically we don't do that.
Yeah.
So we're looking into that, but I guess from a staff standpoint, we're looking into it. I don't know. I can't promise that it's even possible at this
One
point.
way or another.
Yeah. So, but I can tell you we're looking at it, and Tracy and Tim were talking about that today.
Yeah.
Tim Volker, our Public Works Director, as well.
Yeah, I would agree with that, because I brought this issue up before. I don't want to beat it to death, but there's a water issue over there, right? And so it's not just simply putting in landscaping or whatever. Somebody needs to deal with the erosion, because there's quite a bit of asphalt that's been added to the bike path there as a result of the water runoff that's occurred over the years, which is one of the reasons why the tennis courts and the basketball courts are in the shape they're in, right? Because of freeze thaw. And so that particular problem, and hopefully Tracy, as we talked about it earlier, is looking at that, because we don't want to be back in here looking at replacing tennis courts or whatever, and not that long in the future if the water issue becomes worse. So I would tend to agree with you.
Yeah, and it's a swale at the bottom of a hill, so it's not just, even though they describe it as soil and seed, it is not just soil and seed.
No.
It's probably the grading itself and all kinds of other things that there isn't a volunteer group that's going to be able to do that, right?
I'd be one of the ones in the volunteer group, and we're not doing that, right? And
Somebody's got a bobcat in their garage.
No.
Yeah.
And they put a bike pad in there too on top of it, right where the water would go. I'm like, great. So order operations, they really need to figure that out first.
Very good. All right, do we have any other discussion on the motion on the table?
Can I ask a question? I can see the value in the version that works as approved, but just from a historical perspective, kind of advertising McGaw as Pickleball Central, is there any concern, or has there been any talk about how I feel like there was kind of a goal of just having pickleball centered at McGaw, and we're pivoting away from that, which I I'm not against, and I think it makes sense, and it seems like that's what the residents want, and staff is recommending, but I just am asking concerns, because with Swan Creek pending, they're striped with pickle on tennis courts. Is this kind of a future consideration that we're good with, or I'm just asking?
That's a good question.
So first with Swan Creek, when that comes back, and that's gonna come back in the next month or two to start the design project, I'm gonna, at that point, just to be clear, I'm gonna ask this commission, one, hopefully to get the design work approved, but then ultimately as part of that, I'm gonna wanna know how we're designing that, because right now we're kind of debating this of, to your point, is it a tennis court, is it 2 tennis courts, is it tennis and pickleball, is it only one? I mean, I wanna flesh it out, so when we actually go out and design it, that we're not this debate standpoint of like, let's we should have maybe had this, I'm not faulting anybody, but maybe we should have had this conversation 6 months ago, because right now we're kind of talking about what's the best use there. So when that comes back, I think I like to head that thing off at that point.
Yeah.
Just regarding the usage itself, that was the intent, my understanding before I arrived here. I think McKee was supposed to be that tennis court kind of area. McGaw was going to be the pickleball, and then I think quite honestly, a lot of these courts at one point were planned to kind of go away. And obviously, we're pivoting off that partially because the neighbors and just the people are still using them. The neighborhood wants them. So that was the intention at one point, but now obviously it's going a different way.
Yeah. And I think you were on the Parks Commission longer. You were on, and then an alder, and then back to Parks or something along those lines. But for 6 years that I've been involved, I don't remember the Parks Commission ever being asked, do you want to make all the tennis courts at McKee and all the pickleball at McGaw? That, from a financial standpoint, I was told by a former mayor that made the financial sense. But it makes little sense for, a kid on a bike to go play pickleball if you live, Fitchburg's a big community. So, we're back to a different discussion, so.
Maybe the answer may be it depends, right, on the circumstances. And where we are, in this neighborhood, there's 700 houses.
Yeah. Well, it's an area.
It's a huge area, and so I would argue that it would just demand more services from the city to address people who, as you just mentioned, live pretty far away from going all the way over to McGaw, if you're a young person to play pickleball. And there are a ton of people who want to play pickleball in my neighborhood, I can guarantee you. And so those courts are going to get used.
And it's an area park. I mean, we know there's the neighborhoods there, but it's meant to serve a larger area than even just the adjacent neighborhoods. So I don't think we're doing a bad thing at all.
No.
I think there's a lot of value. You have a basketball court, you have 1 tennis court, and you have 2 pickleball courts. I mean, there's a nice variety there versus saying, let's all cram it onto 1 court and see how it goes, which we've tried that, and obviously the pickleball players don't like that. And I mean, it's a good compromise in the sense of you're still having that area, but you're kind of catering to all those groups. And I think knowing how pickleball is in the popular area, which is shocking, I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense. You try to, start, maybe we're gravitating away a little bit from tennis, and it's more pickleball and tennis, and not so heavy-handed as tennis. So I think it makes a lot of sense long-term to try to diversify that.
I definitely also think it makes sense, and just from a usability standpoint, appeal to as many people as you can, but I could see some financial efficiencies of, like, I wasn't involved in that decision either, but I do remember the financial aspect being discussed of, like, for McKee, for that fence, that's expensive to maintain. So if we can just pound down the fence the one time and have that be tennis central, there's potentially some cost savings there. So I think it makes sense, but I just was questioning kind of this, it does feel like a pivot, I guess, is my only.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, these courts are expensive too. I mean, even the maintenance on these, I mean, to at some point look at Wildwood South, which is coming. When you look at that, I mean, you're talking to resurface those, $30, $40, maybe $50,000 to do it right. This one does have a fiberglass kind of layer across it. That's part of the reason why we want Fred to kind of do the design with the intent of hopefully we don't have as much cracking. We're seeing cracking already at McGaw, and these pickleball courts are going to have to deal with that. I mean, they're not cheap, and when you have to rip them out, you're basically ripping the whole thing out, and you're putting a pretty thick base in there, almost like a road. So it's not easy. Dave's going to say something.
Dave, please, go ahead.
Just one comment, Sue touched on it. We spent over $1 million redoing the tennis courts at McKee Farms Park. You know, we put a pro bounce surface on there that gives us extended life. And at the time, as Sue mentioned, you know, former mayor, his thought was, all right, all the tennis is going to be played there. We're not going to worry about the tennis at the other places. And we've pivoted away from that. You know, while I had great respect for that former mayor, I didn't agree with that decision. And people should be able to recreate closer to where they live. And I really like this plan. Of course, like everything, it costs more than I would like, but we do have some funds, some interest that we've made. So I'm comfortable, but anything we can do to cut costs, you know, I'm in favor of.
If there are no other comments, I think we're ready for a vote. We have a motion and a second, so all those in favor of resolution R13825?
As amended.
As amended.
Okay. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, on to item 4B, discussion and possible action regarding the name of the hub located at 2220 Traceway Drive. The park formerly known as the hub, or potentially formerly known as the hub.
It took us a long to figure this out.
So since this is a potential action item, I'm guessing we don't need to dive in with any kind of motion right away.
No, I just want to notice that in case there was, I don't think there needs to be. But the intent of this is obviously the hub is under construction right now. It's going to be completed. The building for sure this fall, the outside is lagging a little bit because of the weather and the elements, but we plan on that being completed probably late fall. The issue of the name has kind of come up just because there are other hubs now located in Madison. That includes the Black Business Hub up Mark Street and also the hub on campus, which is at the UW campus as well. And we just wanted to bring this forward in the sense of, is there a desire to look at a different name, because especially the one on Park Street is pretty close by. Is there confusion out there now? You know, I threw a couple names in the memo, including Core, or looking at the Core on Traceway, Nine Springs Core. We also have Compass has been talked about behind the scenes. We could just try to brand it the Fitchburg Hub. We also have the Traceway Neighborhood Center, and then we had a name submitted from I think a person representing the Ho-Chunk Nation of Host O'Day, which means, I believe, home or gathering place. So just looking for thoughts from the commission on, you know, is this something staff should be looking at? I did include the policy in the packet as well, which does require a 60-day comment period. So it does take some time for changing the name. We haven't ordered any exterior signage for the building. We've been kind of waiting to see what happens or what thoughts are on that. But one, at least kind of get thoughts of, are we good with the hub? Should we be calling it the Fitchburg Hub to really just make sure it's clear? Or should we be looking at other ideas, other options? So that's why it's on the agenda tonight.
Yeah, good topic. Dave, I think you're first with your hand up.
Thank you. I have a very strong opinion on this. You know, the founder of our city, the only reason we have an independent city and are not engulfed in the morass of Madison, is Doug Morissette. You know, who I knew. He is former two separate term mayor. You know, really the founder of our city. A lot of the great things we have here came from Doug, and I would like I'd like it the Doug Morrison Fitchburg Hub is what I would like Doug Morissette's name on it, but that's my opinion. I feel pretty strongly about it, actually. I wanted to say I have to drop off. I'm sorry I can't stay till the end. I'll listen to the rest of it.
Thank you, Dave. Sue?
Never short of an opinion. Here is, I hadn't thought of Doug Morissette, and I didn't know him, but I met many people who spoke very, very highly of him. So that sounds good to say Morissette Park or something like that is a good one for consideration. I agree that hub is overused, and I would like to see us get rid of it completely, the reference to hub, because it's just an internal word so far. Traceway Neighborhood Center, well, first of all, it's a community park, not a neighborhood park, so I don't like that. The Ho Chunk word, I like the idea of drawing in some of these other meanings in history, but when you do a Google search of hub and you get all these other hubs, if you do a Google search of hostoide, you get the French word la histoire. The internet search will always be confused. So you could name the meeting room inside as the gathering place, and then you were taking that recommendation seriously. The Traceway is the street. Nine Springs is the name of the golf course, but there's also Nine Springs E-Way that spreads all the way across. I don't know how many other things might be named Nine Springs if you do a search. But Trace, to me, either Morset Park or something with the word Traceway in it would be the most user-friendly, logical.
I do like getting away from hub, just because I do feel like it's overused, and I actually, with the Park Street, it is so close that I feel like it is confusing.
I've had, when we were going through the design process for this project, when talking about it with other people, I had multiple instances where they thought I was talking about the black business on Park Street. So yeah, I fully support the idea of finding it.
You can start putting colored chairs and stuff. Really confuse people. I like the Doug Morset thing. It sounds like, especially if he was responsible for, it sounds like it makes sense. You gave a Doug Morset Center. I mean, whatever you want to call it. Get away from this hub concept, but to honor the guy. I think that makes sense. I like that idea.
Yeah.
I think this particular project has the opportunity to work in a few different names. We could have say it's the Morissette Center, and then it's Traceway Park, and for the park space around it, and then there's the Hostoide gathering place within it. That's just like the main center or something. There could be a lot of ways to incorporate good concepts here to help differentiate them too, because it's a big place and it's only going to get bigger if it continues as planned across the streets.
Right, because yes, that would be continuing potentially across the street, contiguous with the golf course then, as someday, maybe.
I don't need an answer tonight.
Yeah.
If you guys want to think about it, I can put it back on the agenda for the next meeting as well, if you want to kind of give it some more thought.
Well, and then, legally, how do you do that, and how do you want to start? But the 60-day notice is official through the council, right? And then, I think that's what we had to do last time for Blaney Park, et cetera.
I'd have to check on the policies.
We're all in favor of eliminating hub.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty
We got
good.
that. We got that figured out.
Oh, I wanted to add,
Totally agree
Heidi,
with
I know Heidi has a question, but also after answering Heidi's, just why core? What does core mean to anybody?
We were trying to think of alternative names
just
if you throw hub in, you're trying to kind of
Oh.
stick with the same theme, but throw something
got it.
else out that was, and our thought too was if it was kind of going elsewhere, if you take a name, then that could be applied if there's other parks that were similar in the future and try to brand it that way, and that was why. We're just taking names and just throwing darts at a wall, to be honest with you.
Heidi, you had something to say?
Just quickly, I don't mind the word hub. I mean, I think if we quantify it, as Adam said, with something like the Fitchburg hub, I'm not opposed to hub. Maybe a word like, circuit. I don't know. Fitchburg circuit. I don't know. I mean, it's a thought, but I do like the idea of, I don't know if tabling this is the right word, but opening that 60-day comment period, because I think it would be good to hear from the community as well. So that was all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. Yeah, I wonder if a good process would be maybe we come up with a few different terms, terms, inspiration, that we narrow it down to 3, 4, 5, whatever that people feel comfortable with, and then we can workshop those with the community surveys or something like that, and kind of find the ones that most speak to people, and then they can be applied to potentially different things, and then that's what the council can, put notice on or vote on, follow the regular process.
So what the policy says, the park commission will seek input on a name request at their regular monthly meetings and will allow 60 days following their meeting for public comment. A notice naming the facility will be published in the city newsletter, which we don't have, and then offer a chance for citizens to comment. The Park Commission will act on each request made. It will make a recommendation to the Common Council for action on the request following the 60 days for public comment. So basically, if you're going to put requests out there, I think it's good to probably think about this maybe the next meeting, but then at that point, you'll probably direct me to put a 60-day notice out there, maybe have some ideas out there what possibly could be discussed, and then also then solicit 60 days additional names if people have them. And then once that's up, it'll be back on the agenda. You can make a recommendation to the council based upon that, if that works.
Yeah, that'll give us a little time to sort of think about other words, like circuit or whatever that isn't hub.
Yeah, sounds like a good path forward.
Okay, so we'll have this on the agenda for next time with the intent of maybe everybody coming with some ideas, and then.
I don't know if you mentioned that we need to include the Fitchburg Historical Society.
Yes, I will include them.
Yes.
It was in my back of my mind. I had not forgotten.
Okay.
So I'll have it back on the agenda, and then you can come with your ideas, and then assuming that conversation goes well at that point, it's a 60-day process. And then 60 days after that, we'll have it back on to kind of talk through whatever ideas have come in or whatever ideas you have to put out there. Works?
Mm-hmm. And then Fitchburg Historical Society would know a lot about Doug Morissette.
All right, very good. That's all for items under 4. Number 5, communication. Any communication items?
Just the only thing I have is we are working on a ribbon cutting for Stoner Prairie Park. Trying to get some schedules and dates to the line. Once that's known, I'll share that with the Park Commission. Everyone's obviously welcome to attend. That park is in the process of kind of wrapping up. That the fence has not come down yet. It will be coming down soon. So more to come on that, but just the heads up to the commission.
All right, 6, staff reports and updates. Our staff reports are in the packet. Recreation, forestry, and parks. Anybody have any questions or comments on the reports?
Just that I appreciate them.
Future agenda items. We have a park inventory update for a future item.
Yeah, that was one that I brought up, and I guess I just wanted to make sure that that was a living document, and that there was somebody who was responsible for, highlighting the elements in each park in terms of just where they are and how we would prioritize the work that might be done in the parks. And that would be a discussion item in the Park Commission meeting about, what action we should take or recommend that we should take in different parks that are more maintenance oriented.
It certainly helps us pinpoint where things may be lacking or where we have sort of extra concentrations of things.
Better to head them off before neighbors start yelling at us, right?
Absolutely. All right, announcements. Our next meeting is September 4th. Is that the correct date?
We're going to move it to the 2nd. So September 2nd, the next Parks Commission meeting. I think Scott already sent out that invite for that.
Yes.
But we have a conflict on the 4th, so it'll be on that Tuesday after Labor Day.
And that is still in the council chamber, or is it in this?
I believe I can tell you.
No, it's still 6 o'clock.
I think it's the council chambers because it was available. I think I took it. Yes, council chambers.
All right, with that, we can take a motion to adjourn.
I'll move adjournment.
Second.
Oh,
You'll take it.
Sam got a second.
Sam got it.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We're adjourned at 6:43.